And thank you for having me. I wasn't sure how I was going to start this out, and then the song kind of answered that question for me. There's the old saying that every saint has a past, and I'm certainly not a saint yet, but like all of us, I hope to be someday. But I used to, I don't know that I walked in the counsel of the wicked, but I certainly sat in company with scoffers. I wasn't raised in church. I never knew really what to call my upbringing until very recently, and someone used the term secular Christianity. And I think that kind of fit. There were definitely some Christian values, so to speak, that I was raised with, but our priority on Sundays was the Chiefs. It was not, it was not church, and other than maybe saying a prayer before bed when we were real little, that was about all we got. And obviously I'm standing here, so something changed along the way. And I wanted to share that with this class as a way of giving back what was given to me by the people who took the time to meet with me and my classmates several years ago. When I had my children, this was going on 16 years ago, I started for the first time to kind of ask questions about meaning. Before that, I had honestly never given it much thought. Didn't really know what I believed. Didn't really care all that much. My life was pretty much about me and what I wanted to accomplish out of it. Truth be told, I thought religious people were kind of weird, and like I said, I used to kind of laugh and think of the whole thing as maybe a little bit of superstition or a security blanket or whatever you want to call it. But when my kids were born, I realized that what I felt for them had to be bigger than all of this just being random. And so I guess I'm a little weird, but I decided that I was going to investigate every possible religious belief that I could investigate and decide if there was any truth to any of it at all. And I will tell you from the beginning, the last place I ever thought I would end up was in the Catholic Church. Not because I had any particular biases, it just didn't seem like the way I would go. So I did exactly that, and I spent probably more time than the average person has spent studying anything, really diving into, okay, well, what do Buddhists believe? What do Muslims believe? What in the world do Christians believe? And as I worked my way through that, I read a couple of books, one by C.S. Lewis called Mere Christianity, and another one by a guy named Lee Strobel called The Case for Christ. And I had worked as a reporter early in my career. I was a communications major, and so Lee Strobel's book really resonated with me because he approached the resurrection as a skeptic and as a reporter. And if any of you have read the book, his original goal was to disprove the resurrection so he could get his wife out of church and get back to watching football or whatever it was that he thought was important. And he ended up, the exact opposite happened, and he became a Protestant minister. So that was the first time, because I thought Buddhism has some good ideas, but I don't know that it's not even really a religion. It's just sort of some ideas. And I studied other things, and they didn't seem to make sense. And the deeper I got into Christianity, I discovered that all of the sort of superficial ideas I had about it were really polar opposite. I thought it was, well, how in the world can anyone believe this stuff? This is so silly. This is modern people and modern, and what I discovered just blew my mind away, and it was like peeling back an onion, and I went deeper and deeper and deeper, and layer after layer after layer after layer, and I finally, after this happened over the course of several years, and I finally gave my life to Christ. But then I had this big question of, well, now hold on, I'm here, But there's all these different churches, and they all seem to have a little bit different variants of what they believe and what they agree with, and some of them are in strip malls, and some of them are in really beautiful buildings, and what, you know, where do I even, you know, where do I even begin with something like this? And I thought, well, let me start at the beginning, and I started to look at, well, what did worship look like for the earliest Christians? I mean, we gotta know something. We got archaeologists, we got historians, someone's gotta know something about this. And deeper and more reading and more studying, and this was long before I ever even thought about RCIA. But it became very evident to me after a point that truth had to be either in the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, or maybe the Anglican Church, but everything else seemed to have departed so far from what was in the early church that you know, so again, I'm peeling back onions here, and I finally got to the intellectual part of, okay, I can accept this. I think I do want to go through the RCIA process. And the thing that I really liked about it was, anybody else, if you said, hey, I'd like to be a member of your church, they went, okay, you know, you're in. And the Catholics seem to take it so much more serious than that. No, you can't just come in. We want you to discern. We want you to learn. We want you to understand because of the commitment that this is, and I respected that. And so I went through RCIA, and I asked tough questions, and I listened to other people ask tough questions, and I prayed, and I read, and I discerned, and I reached the point where I was convinced, really beyond any shadow of a doubt, that A, Catholicism was true, B, the Eucharist is Jesus, and I was amazed that it didn't really take that much of a study of history to find out that up until about 500 years ago, any Christian on this planet would have told you that the Eucharist is Jesus. And the other thing that I loved about it was how much it challenged me, because I've told people who are maybe thinking about coming into the church, or maybe they want to know more about it, I've said, you know, whatever your views are on, let's take 5 or 6 really hot button issues in our culture, the church is going to challenge you on something, because maybe you lean a little bit one way, or maybe you lean a little bit the other. Well, you know, the church is not a political organization. The church is truth, and that truth challenged me. I'm sure some of those truths have challenged some of you. But I think the ultimate humility is being able to say, you know, God might know a little bit more than I do when it comes to what's right and wrong, and when it comes to what I'm going to accept, and how I'm going to live my life, and how I'm going to raise my kids. And I'm proud to say today that my wife joined me on the journey just a few years ago. She had the pleasure of going through the COVID version of this, which was a whole interesting process. Our kids, our older kids have joined us. Our younger kids have been baptized in the church. We have another baby coming in March. And the change in my life, I mean, you talk about going from the company of scoffers to being someone who prospers, and it seems whatever I do, as long as I look at it the right way. The peace of mind I have, the fulfillment that I have, the joy that I have. This is such a great parish for getting involved in any kind of ministry that you can think of, in doing good. And the last thing I'll share, and something that really brought it all full circle, is when I went through the process, I read about people experiencing miracles, and everything from Lourdes to personal encounters, and I had never experienced something like that per se until my wife and I tried for our daughter, who's now 21 months old. And when I was going through RCIA, I had just gone through a divorce, and so I got a crash course in the annulment process too. And if any of you happen to be in that place, let me tell you, it's fun. But it's that in itself a year and a half. But my wife, I tell people there's something wrong with her because for some reason she decided to take on a single dad with 2 young boys when she married me, and I wanted so badly for her to have a child of her own because I felt like she was a wonderful mom. And so we had some serious struggles, and we had 2 miscarriages, and I didn't think it was going to happen. And I started praying novenas to St. Rita. I took St. Jude's name when I was confirmed because I felt like I really am an impossible cause, and if I can come into this, then anybody can. So I thought, well, here's another cause that seems impossible. So we started saying novena to St. Rita, and sure enough, she got pregnant, and it stuck. And so we decided we wanted to name her something connected to St. Rita. And we chose Rosemary because St. Rita is known for the miracle of the roses, and then we were able to work the Virgin Mary in as well. But when she was born, they handed me this little girl wrapped in pink, and she smelled like fresh roses. And I asked the nurses, I said, what did you put on her? This is lotion, like where do I buy this? And they said, we haven't done anything. She was just born, all we did was dry her off. And I mean, you talk about, you know, chills. You know, I sometimes look back and I'm like, did I dream that? I mean, it's so unreal. But I felt like that was like a wink from God and St. Rita that, you know. And I think about where I was at one of the lowest points in my life when I started RCIA, and now I'm at unquestionably one of the highest points in my life, and it's not because I won the lottery or because I, you know, accomplished any incredible thing, but when I started following truth, everything changed, and I used to not be proud of the guy in the mirror, and now I put my head on the pillow every night, and I am, and that makes all the difference in the world. And so my prayer for you, wherever you are in the journey, is keep asking those tough questions. Pray that you'll get the answers that you're meant to get. Maybe not the answers you want, but the answers you're meant to get. And I just wish you all the best in the world. I think that what you're coming into is going to be the best decision you ever made. So with that, I will let you get on with your class, and certainly if anyone has questions, I'm more than happy to answer them, but I don't want to take too much of your time. So
I got a question. How about your extended family? You said how your immediate family, how did they, I mean, kind of how they took it, but what about your extended family? Was there any pushback at all? Or? There
was no pushback, which was nice, because I know people have run into that, but there certainly has also been no interest whatsoever, and certainly there's been some friction, especially when it comes to some political stuff, which I will not go into. But it's kind of been, well, that's good for you, but you know, not so much for us. So, but they remain in my prayers. So.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Your phone.
My wife would not be happy if I lost that.
So you can put this on something. And then turn it on.
Hi everyone, I'm Christine Gala. My husband and I have been parishioners here at St. Joe since 2020. I came into the church in 2016 at Divine Mercy Parish in Gardner, Kansas. And tonight's presentation, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Is on sacramentals. So, I guess we will begin.
Lights?
Yes, please. Thank you. There we go. Okay, sacramentals. Does anybody know what the definition of a sacramental is? Okay. I didn't either until I prepared this presentation. So, what is the definition of a sacramental? It's a sacred sign, symbol, action, or ceremony which, in a certain imitation of the sacraments, has a spiritual effect and is obtained through the intercession of the church. It's kind of a long-winded explanation. Now, there's a sacrament or a sacramental. You've probably heard of both of them. Does anybody know what the difference is between a sacrament and a sacramental? I didn't either, so we'll learn together. Let's see. The sacraments were instituted by Jesus himself, and sacramentals were instituted by the church. That's really the only difference. I mean, it's huge, but that's the difference between a sacrament and a sacramental. What's the purpose of a sacramental? To sanctify us to get the most benefit from the sacraments. They provide us opportunities to cooperate with God's grace. Isn't that cool? They give us an opportunity to work with God. Let's see. Sacramentals are also channels of God's grace that can provide benefits like forgiveness of venial sins, remission of temporal punishment, health of body, and protection from evil. We had the saints class not too long ago, and Saint Benedict, I don't know if anybody's familiar with him, but I have a bracelet, a charm bracelet with Saint Benedict on it, and he helps. He's, the patron saint of many causes, but he protects people. He protects us from evil. So that's one of the reasons I wear it. There's only one paragraph in the entire catechism that deals with sacramentals, and it's paragraph 1677. Sacramentals are sacred signs instituted by the church. They prepare men to receive the fruit of the sacraments and sanctify different circumstances of life. That's the Catechism 1677 regarding sacramentals. And now my husband will share some of our sacramentals from our home. It's okay, honey.
We practiced this. Okay. So, everybody know what this is?
It's palm.
This is Palm from Palm Sunday. And this is a crucifix. Both of these items were in my grandmother Ngala's house all the time when I was a kid. There was also pictures of the Last Supper. There was all kinds of sacramentals in her house. These two items always were, they were more or less emblazoned in my head from childhood. And funny thing about my grandma Ngala, we called her Grandma Tony, and my grandpa Ngala, we called him Grandpa Tony, because her name was Tony. Anyway, none of that has to do with sacramentals. I just thought that was cool. Anyway, these now hang in Christy and I's house. And this hangs over the entrance to our living room. And this is in our front room, between the windows. Okay. This is a rosary made from material that comes from the Holy Land and has actually laid across the same tomb that Jesus laid in. And it was made by the hands of Deacon Mark. And okay, this is a crucifix that has been blessed. It's from a special weekend in my life that I had a a personal encounter with Christ, and it's a constant reminder of that personal encounter. And it hangs in our, well, it hangs around my neck sometimes, but it hangs in our front room. Okay, and Grandma Pat. This is from my Grandma Pat. She gave this to Christy and I for our wedding. So, this is a constant reminder of the sacrament of marriage for Christy and I. And it hangs in our kitchen room. Yeah. What do you call it? By our fireplace. And another thing that this is, this has a little special value to me besides, Jesus brought Christy and I together in the sacrament of marriage. When I look at this, it reminds me of my Grandma Pat, and her role in my life. In my 20s, I had a stint away from. I'm going to call it off into the world. I was drifting away from everything that I learned as a kid, and she never gave up hope on me, and she always encouraged me. She always was letting me know she was praying rosaries for me, praying novenas, and she gave me a Bible study book that really was around the time when I started really getting back into my faith. So whenever I look at this, I'm reminded of Grandma Pat, and really, I think without her, I wouldn't be where I am in my faith today. So that's what I have for sacramentals tomorrow. Thank you.
Does anybody want to share any sacramentals that they have that are important and meaningful to them? Does anybody have anything to share? Yes, go ahead.
So I have a rosary that I got in college when I became a Knight of Columbus. And for those who don't know, I'm an Army guy. And that rosary has been in every combat patrol I've ever been on. It's been to Iraq, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Africa. And as it's aged, the beads are no longer shiny black. They're becoming more gray. And that's always kind of been a special thing that I never ever want to lose. And I actually got to dip it in the River Jordan at the Jesus baptismal site. And so that's always been very special to me.
Nice. Nice. Thanks for sharing. Does anybody else want to share any sacramental items?
You must have missed the scapular,
Nice.
the brown scapular.
Thank you for sharing. That's beautiful. Somebody back over here had something to share too?
Yeah, I wear a crucifix and a miraculous medal with Mary on it just to help me remember their yes to God and my yes to God. So,
Amen.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. Steve, when he was sharing the rosary that Deacon Mark made, I have a personal story to share about that. I, a few years ago, had to have an MRI. And you don't know you're claustrophobic until you go to an MRI and you can't do it, And so I had to get rescheduled, and I was terrified. I was, and I took that rosary in because it's not metal, it's cloth, and I prayed the rosary, and I was able to get through it, and so that rosary means a lot to me, just something even that small. I was able to take it in there, and I was able to get through it by praying the rosary. So God was with me. Even the first time, I just didn't know how to call on the Blessed Mother or call on Him the first time, but the second time I got through it. So, anybody else want to? Yes.
I have 2 rosaries, one from each of my grandmothers that are both deceased. One is made from the roses that were on her casket, and then the other one is from my grandma that we would go to Mass most Sundays together, and then we'd have coffee bar afterwards, coffee and donuts, and so both sides of the family.
Nice. That's beautiful. Anybody else? Yes.
I have St. Joseph Medal of the Worker that was received when I graduated from high school, and I wore it all the time. And then it was about, I'll say about 10 years ago, it disappeared off the chain. I couldn't find it because it's outside. So I prayed to St. Anthony, St. Anthony, please come out sometime. Didn't show up. I figured St. Joseph and St. Anthony had a fight. That's why they weren't answering, right? Well, there was a period of my time right around the holidays where I was feeling very, very depressed. It's about 4 years after I lost it, right? I come out of the shower to go to work, and there it is laying upright on the floor as I come out of the shower. Okay, and I still carried my wallet ever since. So I mean, it's amazing how those things do work. Wow. Give a good impression. So it put me on a much better trajectory insofar as that. So, right.
Nice. Anybody else have anything to share about sacramentals? Well, I took a little page out of Father Mark's playbook, and I made a little quiz, but it's not near as hard as the one that he had. So we're going to try to do our quiz over what we just discussed on sacramentals.
Were you here for that?
Turn on your computer.
Okay, so you can either scan the QR code or you can log in to www.
This is the first year we've ever done this, so. So you all are privileged, don't get to do that with your cell phones.
Come on.
Okay, we're starting to
Forget
get two
it.
participants.
Joy.
William.
What do I want? My quiz. My quiz. Come on, baby.
All right, guys.
I think you got more participants than Father Mark. Good learning curve, huh?
Thanks. All right, we'll go ahead and get started if you guys are ready, okay? Sorry about that.
Running real fast.
We're definitely getting a better class score. Than we did with Father Mark's. Here's Mia, she's red hot. Mia, good job. Oh, Jack's got a.
I got lucky. I got lucky.
You've got a bunch of geniuses in here, is what I've decided.
Oh, that's like got married. My fingers up on
Well, I either made the quiz too easy, or you guys listened very well, because pretty much everybody got 9 or 10. We had like a 90% accuracy.
One of those.
Yeah, me too.
So far.
About once a day. Are you sure?
Well, I was gonna give the top scorer a candle or something, but I'd have to pass out something to everybody, so I brought some candy in the kitchen. Anybody still taking it? Was I done? Wow. 95% last time.
It's awesome. Okay, now's a good time for you to ask the tough questions since the teacher is still here at the front of the room.
Ask questions.
Any questions?
I got it. Yeah, I'll always have a question. So if, let's say my scapular breaks or something, what do I do with the sacramental? Or a rosary breaks or something like that?
That's a really good question. Does anybody know the answer?
George?
Richard?
Yeah. If it's something that's flammable, you should burn it. It's not something you should just, a sacramental is something you should not discard and just throw it in the trash because it's broken or something. The other thing to do is bury it in the ground. I mean, I think it's interesting that many of you have talked about your sacramentals that come from your grandparents and people like that. Sacramentals in families do not just disappear. And it's real rare that somebody just throws something away. I mean, I've probably got 20 rosaries that I've gotten over from different things, but I would never throw one of them away.
I agree, right.
Is a Bible or a missal considered a sacramental?
Yes.
There's innumerable sacramentals. I mean, so many things that you know, that we use and even signs, like the sign of the cross is a sacramental sign, so.
I'd like to tell you a little story. When I was growing up, my mother was her parents had immigrated from Belgium. And one of the things that her family always did was to take the palms that came on Palm Sunday and weave them into some kind of a decorative kind of thing. But anytime there was really a bad storm, my mother would cut a piece of that palm and burn it because she said, this is calls God to help us.
Wow, that's a sacramental,
Right.
that's exactly right. Even putting less salt in bread would be a sacramental action, so, yes. Anybody else want to share anything? Does anybody want to go watch the Chiefs?
Are they playing?
All right, let's take a few minutes break.